There's one misconception that people have about self-employment that I'd like to clear up, and that is that it's not about you. I think so many of us, as we ponder, trying to go out on our own, or we're out there and we are, kind of in that daily grind, trying to make our business work, to make this self-employment, to make our dream, stay alive or come alive or thrive, is that we thought a lot about ourselves and what we wanted to do and what we wanted to bring to the market or to bring attention to. And it comes, the way you get the courage to get out and to do this is looking inward, and that strength and the experience and the ideas, and we draw on that, and it becomes a lot of outward thinking. And I think once you do end up in that role, that you have to quickly shift your perception of where you stand in your place. And you're already out, you're past. And so now it's really a time to be the customer, to be that person you want to touch, you want to reach, and to think about them and do the things that you need to do to engage them, to embrace them, to tantalize them, to draw that curiosity to what it is you're trying to bring to this world.
You are listening to the Self-Employed Success Podcast. This is your source for inspiration, advice, and strategies for building financial independence without a traditional corporate job. Each episode features interviews with successful entrepreneurs, freelancers, and business owners who have achieved financial freedom through self-employment. Whether you're just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey or you're a seasoned pro looking for new ideas, this podcast will give you the tools and insights you need to create a life and business that you love. Join us as we explore the world of self-employment and learn how to build the income, the freedom, and fulfillment you deserve. Welcome to the show, Ken. I am absolutely excited to have you on. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Absolutely. I just love the opportunity to share and to be asked questions and to see and to learn. I learned so much by being a guest and sharing my story.
On your website, Ken, as soon as we land on it, which by the way is in the show notes, you have a banner that says, "When tomorrow comes, your yesterdays don't matter anymore." So powerful. And so I want us to dive into this in a little bit. But first, I ask this to all of my guests that come on and hang out with us to share their story. Because again, I say it all the time, self-employment is a journey. Self-discovery is a journey. I personally have experienced an evolution of myself, and I continue to invest in my own education, my own professional development, because I don't know where the future is going to look like for me. And so I love hearing stories, and I know my listeners love to listen to stories to motivate them and provide them, a place of comfort to know that they are doing the right thing by tuning in to great episodes like this one. And so take a moment and share with us your journey, Ken, how this whole thing started for you.
Yeah, it started, I think there's a lot of the backstory, and I think people, if they're interested, they could catch up on a lot of some of the, the winding roads of the backstory. But mine is, one of, I think, a lot of listeners. I was a corporate person. I was that person for a long time. And I started thinking about, as I got into my 50s, what is my third act? What am I going to do with myself when I grow up? In a kind of a joking way, what do I really want to do, and will it have an impact? So all these self questions about, starting to think about my legacy and starting to think about when I do leave corporate, it's hard to have a legacy. The machine just rolls past you, it rolls on, it forgets you in a week, and I thought, I've done so much good work in corporate. I had so many great experiences and nothing I would take away. But it was about, what do I want to build for myself when I leave? And I bought a guitar. I did something really strange and unusual and intentional. And I started writing. So I started to do intentional things that had momentum behind them, kind of a life momentum, an energy, and to build those and to keep those going in a kind of a forward direction. And the writing and the guitar oddly came together and they became dependent upon each other. And then I started to think about and imagine what was I going to do. And I had this idea that I wanted to travel when I retired around the US. I had been away from the US for quite some time. So I thought that was an interesting idea. And somehow those ideas, because they were open and they weren't predefined, I didn't have any expectations of my writing. I wanted to write a book or two books or speeches. And my guitar playing, I was never going to be Bruce Springsteen, sadly, um, but I could be Ken Stearns and I could play for myself. And I could write for so many different things to end up where they would go. And those things came together. I think the part of my story I want to get across is I didn't plan everything, but I had this horizon thinking and this horizon momentum, going over the horizon where I couldn't see where I was going, but I knew I had energy and momentum and positivity, and I was going to build something over that hill. And those ideas came together somewhere over the horizon. They came together, and my podcast was born, where I created 444 questions from this book I wrote called Dear God, where I asked God, really 48 letters of questions about ideas that I had, my summations of life. And so I've got these 444 questions pre-printed out, stuffed into a jar, and I'm following my dream of traveling the country, and I'm interviewing 444 people. And I bought a big van and I'm driving around the country to 111 cities. And if you had told me 2 years ago this is what I'd be doing, I would have called you bananas. But here I am, and it's really like I was saying, Martine. It's a summation of things I did for myself, self development, like you talked about. Building on what I had without those expectations, without too much predefined outcome, and allowed the process to unfold before me. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm halfway through the journey. I've been to 60 cities. I've met about 200 people, got 200 episodes up, and it's an amazing journey for me. And I think so many people can do what they want to do, or they can begin to do something that they like to do with the intention of finding out where it's going to take them later.
Absolutely powerful. Doing it now and loving what you're doing now is going to make a big difference tomorrow. And I do have to chime in here because I have goosebumps just listening to you and really, just thinking through my own personal journey. And you definitely have put my own personal journey into context here, because when I was sitting in a corporate job, six figures, traveling to China for them, there was nothing, wrong with the position. It's just that firing desire of wanting more, and not even knowing what that more was, that feeling, right? And it's so important because, as self-employed individuals, the key is what you shared exactly, Ken, at the top of the conversation. It's about the people that you serve, the audience, the people that you're showing up for, contrary to what most people think is, you're going to make money when you're self-employed. You're going to be a business person. It's all about the money. Yeah, the money comes with what you do as a result of providing value. And so, but first, it starts with your inspiration, your why, your investment of wanting more. And so I appreciate you sharing your story. It's truly motivating. And I just wanted to bring that home for you listening, to ensure that you understand that even here, listening to Ken and I while you're washing the dishes, walking the dog, on the treadmill, that is an energy that you're putting out to invest in yourself. And I cannot wait to continue this conversation and talk more about your book, Dear God. What a wonderful concept. But before we do that, I want to go back to that quote, Ken. I want you to help us understand where this is coming from. Like, what do you mean by saying when tomorrow comes, your yesterdays don't matter anymore?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's kind of that really is out of the book. It kind of really the concept of that really almost summations. One of the a few of the letters all in one quote. And I really am I'm a firm believer, and really, I mean, I'm really in love with the idea of thinking about tomorrows and planning, and again, that horizon kind of a thing. But boy, the past, so many people carry around the past with them, are anchored in the past. And, what I'm trying to get through on that quote is it doesn't matter in your tomorrows, in your future, whatever past you've got, whatever burdens you've got, whatever strengths you have, even your strengths, the things behind you, some of that stuff doesn't matter anymore. There is only the present. There really only is today. There is no such thing in a way, in reality, as the future. Future really is kind of a lie. There is no future. There is only today. So we can plan this horizon thinking and or use the horizon thinking kind of methodology, this envisioneering, because you're not focused on a particular result. You're focused on the energy and where you're going to go, a direction, and you have to be flexible within that. So this tomorrow sometimes is a very specific thing to people, and I think it's so important to let go of those super hard crystallized results that you want in a way, and be a little bit more flexible. Of course, you've got to have goal setting and you have to have things, but it boils down to what you do today, right? Because that's what matters. What you do today is going to impact tomorrow. And again, your past is gone. Forget about yesterday's.
I absolutely agree. And I feel like a lot of us have this mindset, especially us coming from the corporate world, right? That structure of, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Even as I was saying it, I'm struggling with actually articulating it because it is all about, right, plans. Very detailed plans, and I don't think I've ever seen a plan that ever came true. And I must have been involved about 500 or 600 of them. Quarterly plans, annual plans, yearly, whatever, 10-year plans, 5-year plans. You've been in this court, you travel overseas, it's manic, and you have to be flexible, but you do need a guiding light and guiding principles. Not to say that that's not a reality, but the specifics around it, sometimes we can let go.
Absolutely. And I know it could be scary for some. You picked up a guitar. You picked up a guitar. You were in the corporate world doing this, and then you're like, I'm going to do something completely different, right? You picked up a guitar and you started writing, right? Something that you did not write, that you did not think. Like, even for me, like you talked about third act. I'm on my second act. I'm now an adjunct professor at several universities in New Jersey. I would have never imagined doing
Yes,
this
right.
in a boardroom in an office in Hong Kong, working on those plans with my
Oh
job, right?
God,
And
so funny.
so it's interesting to see how once we say yes to that firing desire of ours that is giving us that, nugget saying you can do more, and being okay with not understanding what does that look like and just jumping in, it's absolutely powerful. And so before we end this conversation, Ken, I want to do two things. I want us to find out a little bit more about your book, because you did mention it a few times. And I'm going to have it in the show notes for you listening. You could absolutely grab it. Is there going to be another rendering of it? You know, and why should we pick it up? What are we going to learn from this to help us move forward? And the second thing I want you to share with us, when I go on your website, I have to tell you, I'm super duper impressed with the beautiful images of you in front of the stages with so many people looking at you. And you are clearly an amazing speaker, impacting lives, putting people first. I want to know, what's that? What do you talk about when you're out there? And because we want to stay connected and see you on stage when you come around our city. And so let us know a little bit more about the speaking. So the book and the speaking is what we want to hear.
Absolutely. I'll do a real quick, and I'll do it a little bit truncated, but I'll get through it. Is the structure of the book. So the book was really a second idea version of the first one, which was Dear Dad. I had this idea of writing letters to my father. He had passed away when I was a kind of a young guy, and he was an executive. I became an executive. There's so many things, father, son, that I missed that I would have loved to tell him, good things and bad things. And somewhere along the way, traveling back and forth to the U.S., visiting my mom, she had a strong faith. And I ended up with also letters in my folder, these scratch papers called Dear God. And that kind of came together with my guitar. And I was writing songs based off these scratch notes after the book had sat dormant for 4 or 5 years. And then I picked it back up, and I came to love the structure of it, and I ended up with 4 parts. The first part is a book of self, and that's your yesterdays, todays, tomorrows, which we kind of covered a little bit. And then it's a book of others, which is directly between you and another person. And I thought acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion were really important tool sets for interpersonal relationships. And then the next part I was kind of asking God about was humanity. What do I need? What are the skill sets in a good human as you go about and work within humanity? And I thought love, karma, and service were the things that came to me in a kind of an approach. And so I explore those in the letters. And then the last one was talking to God and saying, what's faith? What's hope? What's prayer? And I think that last part was really the part that was, kind of, I was envious of my mom, almost, amazed because her faith was so strong. And I don't have that kind of faith. I didn't have it, don't have it, that level of faith she had. And so those were things I saw in her that I was asking, like, what is that? What's that all about? And so I spent, I wrote 48, there's 12 topics. Each one has 4 letters to it. And, they're kind of these asking and testing my theories. And so that's the construct of the book. And I think it's an easy read. Each letter is self-contained by itself. There's some of my poetry, quote unquote poetry in there, which are actually my songs that I've kind of pulled out of there. So it's a great book to explore and to test your own ideas around your mind, your what's in between your mind on your past and your present, and what does acceptance mean to you, and forgiveness and compassion, love, karma, service. I think it's great to explore those ideas within yourself. In the Martine, the speaking part, the stuff you see on the personal website, the Ken Stearns one, is me speaking in Asia to audiences. And these are mostly either strategy sessions, kind of communicating the strategy, or motivational speeches, trying to give these people who are out there selling every day and trying to build, actually all entrepreneurs in the audience, honestly. All of those are filled with entrepreneurs and people looking for some motivation or some wisdom and how to do stuff. And so I spent a lot of time, I was a very strategic executive, and that was kind of, I had 2 things. One was strategy, and the other one was turning poor performing businesses around. And, I made a good living off doing that around Asia over the years. And then I felt it was time to bring that home and to bring it with myself.
Absolutely amazing. I'm definitely going to pick up your book because I too lost my dad. I was 16 years old when it happened. He was murdered in front of me, shot right in front of me in Haiti, in my home country. Yes.
Where's your home country?
Haiti. I'm from
In
Haiti.
Haiti.
Yes, yes.
In Haiti, and you saw it happen. Oh my goodness.
In front of me, yes,
Oh
yes. And
goodness.
I'll tell you, and I mentioned, it's 25 years now plus. My
Goodness.
mom is still alive. We're actually going to be celebrating her 80th birthday. Um,
Super.
she's amazing. And, I bring this up because, for you listening, and I'm sure Ken, you mentioned it, we all have things that's happened, yet we have that tomorrow that we want it to be better for ourselves and our children. I have 2 kids myself, and my father was in the higher ed, and I never would have thought that that's where I would be too. And so, I love how, right, you mentioned at some point, you said it's important to be in the present. And
Yes.
I had to work on that myself where, because again, the corporate world, I'm always my husband is a musician, in fact, and he's completely different. He's like, why are you worrying about tomorrow? Can we just
Yes.
enjoy right now?
No.
He's very, very much, very creative and very laid back. He's a bass player and keyboard player. And so he taught me that. And this is why I'm going to pick up your book to invest more into that energy of, truly, working that mindset muscle, continue to move forward because we don't know. Yeah, we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. I mean, listen, we just got out of this crazy pandemic that was not in our plan, right?
I was not on my bingo card.
Ah! And so, listen, it's definitely a moving target living this wonderful life of ours, but we're here to say the success is here, and the success depends on what you define it to be. Okay.
Yes.
It's not necessarily the money. It's the success could be the ability. Like, I know I felt successful when I finally was able to walk down the block from my house to pick up my son from the bus and not have to get in the car rushing to aftercare. And so that was a successful moment for me,
Wow.
able to get him from the bus. And so all that to say how wonderful and amazing and inspiring it is to hear your journey, your third act, and how you've decided to bring this home to us. And you motivating me. I am a professional speaker. I want to speak more, and having you in my energy is definitely something that I'm grateful for. And I know that for the one listening right now is also feeling that energy. And by the way, you're listening all the way to this point, so you're totally feeling this right now. I know you are. And so do not forget to share this episode with a friend. Check the show notes. Make sure you grab the book from Ken, Dear God, and stay connected because he's going to be writing more books, just so you know.
Absolutely.
I'm feeling it. And so I just honestly enjoyed our conversation, Ken. You motivated me. I am super pumped to be connected with you. And with that, I just want to again thank you for hanging out with us today.
Martine, thanks so much. Yeah. In the I think there is the other on the registration for the site when you post that for people. Just as a side note, I have made a PDF download of the first part of the book available for free, so people can get a taste of it before they buy.
I love that. Excellent. Yes, it is absolutely going to be in the show notes. What a great gift. Thank you for that. And for you listening, ensure to connect with us. Let us know that you've listened to this episode. In fact, before we end, Ken, would you mind sharing where on social media do you hang out the most, just in case we want to shoot you a note?
Sure. I think so there's the site that you quoted, and then there's also the JAR site, the jar.live. And I think that's a great place to find everything. It's a good launch point. It's just www.thejar.live. And that's where you put in your email and you can get the show. You can get the yesterdays, todays, and tomorrows. I call it the book of self. And you can learn how to talk to that battlefield of the mind inside there.
Wonderful. I see it now. Beautiful website. Excellent. I will absolutely put that in the show notes. And for you listening, listen, it's a process, right? It's a journey. I say this all the time, right? It's a process, it's a journey. And every single step you take today is going to be important for tomorrow. And so do not give up on yourself. Do make sure that you're strategic, and just like Ken share, have the guiding light, but don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, it takes time, but be strategic. All right, and don't be intimidated by myself, by Ken, by anyone that you see on Instagram, because listen, every single one of us have a different journey, and it's supposed to be different. It's not supposed to be the same. But we're here on this podcast dedicated to giving you the insights, the motivation, the resources to have you successful in this moving target we call life. And so congratulations for listening all the way through. I'm excited that we were able to hang out in your earbuds. Ken and I are truly grateful for you. And this was another great episode of the Self-Employed Success Podcast. I cannot wait to be in your earbuds very soon. Thank you so much for listening.